Hi, this is Erin from BlossyB. Welcome to my channel. The plan for this video is to create a pair of beautiful jars as a thank you gift for a friend. And to do that, I'm going to be using epoxy resin and some gorgeous gold Orca temporary tattoos to decorate the jars with because I know she will just love that look. So this gift is taking inspiration from two pieces I've made, or two makes. The first is this beautiful bowl that I made using these stunning gold foiled tattoos, and my friend really loved the look of that and especially loved the gold tone, and she also loves these tattoos that I showed her. These are a pair of orcas or killer whales, and there's also two whales up the top. So she really loved them. So then I started thinking, what could I put them on? And there weren't enough to do a bowl, but then we remembered these. So we had a look at it together and we decided that these two jars, the large and the small, would be perfect. Now the one that I'm holding now is the beautiful purple with butterflies that I made for the lupus awareness collaboration. So these are actually very special to me. Whenever I look at them, I was very proud of them and I was very grateful to be able to learn more about lupus. And I'll put the link for that video in the description box along with the one with the feather bowl. So I'm deciding now which sizes will work best, and then we will fast forward to the application. Now, I must say this was filmed not so long after my surgery last month, and I haven't edited it until now. So my hand is much better. I don't have to wear a cast anymore. I just wear a soft splint. So if you notice me struggling, which I do, that's what's happening. Now the thing is, when I made that beautiful feather bowl, I was able to successfully turn that mould inside out and apply the temporary tattoos quite easily. I could not turn this jar mould inside out, so the only option I had was to try and insert the tattoo into the gap, and this is where things just got very awkward. So I'm showing you there all the little details, and I know that to have it fit, I need to have the orca's head facing down a little bit, and then I'm going to just try and squeeze my fingers in there and dampen a cloth, press down and try and get a really good adhering of the temporary tattoo. However, I don't do a very good job and I'm pretty upset with myself. As I'm taking off the paper, I can see that the tail got sort of dragged a little bit, and I'm really not sure what happened. But this really threw me. I was thinking, do I just quit? Should I have not started crafting so soon after my surgery? But the thing is that this gift is for my friend who picked me up the day I was released from hospital, brought me home, had my bedroom looking like the most luxurious hotel room, and just really looked after me, took me to follow-up appointments, and it was really on my mind that I wanted to make something pretty for her because we were looking through some things and she'd said, oh, I love these, and I thought, yep, okay, I need to do these. So I decided to keep going, and look what happened. This tail didn't even make it to the application stage. This tail came off even before I started applying it. So by now I'm just thinking, what am I doing? But we keep going because, things can be switched up and changed and fixed and added to and all of those things. So I'm just going to go fiddling around in here and getting this into the right position again, and then I'll adhere this side as well. I really love orcas as well. Obviously, they're a marine mammal, but people often confuse them for being a whale because of the name they've been given, killer whale. But they're actually dolphins. In fact, they are the largest member of the dolphin family. And I think that they're really popular with people because they're the most widely distributed of all the whales and the dolphins, and you can actually find them in every single ocean. And they do stand out, don't they, with their beautiful black and white colouring. But actually, depending on where they live around the world, they can have really quite unique behaviours and appearances, and also different ways of communicating. So with the second smaller jar here, I'm actually using 2 whales, and I know we're crossing species here, dolphins and whales, but it's a similar theme, isn't it? Because actually dolphins and whales are really closely related. So orcas were originally given the name killer whale after sailors way in the past observed groups of orcas hunting and preying on larger whale species. And they do have a Latin name, which is Orcanus orca. Also reflects this observation of orcas feeding on large whales. It translates to of the kingdom of the dead. And orca refers to a kind of whale. We know that orcas are top predators, but not the vicious whale killers that we thought that they were in the past. And in fact, they are dolphins. So they eat so many things, and I think some of the most amazing videos I've ever watched on orcas have been watching them cunningly round up their prey. They eat fish, seals, sea lions, dolphins and porpoises, sharks and rays, large whales, octopus, squid and seabirds. However, some of them do definitely specialise in specific prey, and they can be quite picky eaters. And once they learn what their family likes, their family tends to stay eating that and not change, which I think is really interesting. Now, getting close to the resin pouring in this little project. Now, when I asked my friend what colour she would like, wow, we got a whole range. We got sort of ocean blues with a little sort of hint of the turquoise and aqua, and a little bit sparkly. And so I'm going to just fiddle around until we get something that looks super pretty. And I'm going to split up the resin. So this is River Art Deep Pour Resin. And I'm going to split it up into some pots, tint some of them, and then we will pour away. And I should mention too that the tempera tattoos always take time to dry, and because I'm using resin, resin and water do not mix, so you need to absolutely make sure that they are completely dried out. Now, I was going to say too, I love the fact about orcas sleeping. So they sleep so differently to us. So we've got a breathing reflex, as you know. So when we sleep or we become unconscious, we keep breathing. But orcas can't sleep like that. They actually have to remain conscious even when they're sleeping. And that's because their breathing is not automatic. So they actually have to decide when to breathe. So if they went into a deep unconscious sleep, they would stop breathing altogether. So to get around this, get this, they only allow half of their brain to sleep at a time, and the other half stays alert, which allows them to keep breathing and to also stay really alert, looking out for danger in the environment. And they only close one eye when they sleep. So the left eye will be closed when the right half of the brain sleeps, and vice versa. I think that's amazing. And orcas actually change the side of their brain which is sleeping. They can alternate it so they get the rest that they need without ever becoming unconscious. And when they're asleep, they just swim very slowly and steadily up close to the surface. Don't you think that's incredible? And I hope you're getting these beautiful water ocean vibes from the colours that I'm blending. I'm not even going to try and tell you what I've used because who would know? Honestly, I just had so many different blues, glitters, things like that, and just mica powders, and just kept putting them in until I felt they were reaching the colour that I was looking for. As I said, my friend just had this vision of gorgeous sort of blue mottled waters, and I was like, yeah, let's just go for it. I'm just going to put everything in. So I'm also adding in this little bit of gold. Now, my thinking for this is that I'm going to try and not disguise the tails, but, you know, just add in some little bits of pieces of flashes of gold so that the tattoos blend in as well. And yeah, look, I had so much fun making these mixtures up. I felt like a potion master. It was really good fun. I do like it when you can blend lots of different things together. And just while I'm finishing these mixtures, I just wanted to also talk about how orcas communicate, because I think that's one of the most exciting things. So they have the elders in the pods, the groups, and they are able to pass down knowledge to the younger ones and let them know what to eat and where to find it and how to catch it and who to avoid. And these pods have unique vocalizations that are just for that group. So it's like us having accents. And what's happened over time is that these orca pods have made adaptations that have now meant that they are quite genetically different to other groups of orcas. And I think that's incredible. So you can have an orca in one part of the world and another part of the world, and they are quite genetically different. They have a different appearance, different cultural way of behaving, different diet, and that is because the older orcas in that pod have passed down what has worked for them, and they have adapted and evolved over time to take on those traits. So I just think that's incredible. Now, the exciting time, ready for pouring. So my goal here is just to sort of randomly pour in different pieces of the colours and blends. I do want to try and make the large and smaller pot sort of similar. I know they won't be identical, but I'm trying to sort of pour at the same time the different pieces. I do remember quite distinctly this was quite difficult to do one-handed, so I'm probably not being as precise as I could be, but the idea is to get these different layers of colours in. So I'm looking for a really rich colouring with a lot of depth, different layers, and that every time you sort of move the jar around, it will sparkle and be gorgeous. And I know that my friend loved in the video when I made the two beautiful lupus awareness jars with the purple butterflies. I popped in some makeup brushes and things in it, and she really loved the idea of having little jars like that on her dressing table or vanity. And yeah, so that's really what we're hoping for with an end result. So I'm just drizzling in some of this delicious gold mixture. I just love, there is so much gold depth in here. I think in the end I used 3 or 4 different gold glitters, micas, everything I could throw at it. And it is intense and gorgeous. And I was very happy with this. So I'm just going to keep going and keep layering, and I hope you enjoy watching that process. Now, I think it's important when we're talking about any creatures is that we think about what our impact on them is. And as much as we admire and love looking at orcas, they have a number of threats worldwide to them. So they do accidentally get caught in quite a lot of fishing nets and gear. They also are really suffering from toxic waste and dumping of pollution in the seas. And because we have so many big ships and boats travelling around the planet at the moment, they have had an increase in collisions, and also the underwater noise pollution is an area that scientists are constantly looking at and researching, because of course these creatures depend on communicating through the water, and if they've got all of this noise pollution, that can really throw them off. And you know, when we see incidents like mass strandings of some of the ocean marine animals, you realise that there's got to be a reason. So maybe sometimes noise pollution could contribute to them being disorientated. So unfortunately, in some regions of the world, they are still victims of whaling. And also, there was a huge problem decades ago when orcas were targeted by really unscrupulous people, I think, to be captured for oceanariums, you know, for SeaWorld parks. And they really heavily affected the numbers at the time. And the orcas did not do well in captivity at all. In fact, it's disastrous. So there has been, thank goodness, a huge awareness about this. And unfortunately, there's still an area, I think it's off the coast of Russia in the ocean, they are still catching orcas and selling them into captivity. But I'm hoping as time passes that people will realise that that is a really bad idea. They do not do well in captivity, and they are not a creature that should be treated that way. So these killer whales, which orcas are often known as, have been put into these sea life arenas, and they get into small artificial groupings, so they're missing their pod structure, and they I think I was just looking at some statistics earlier. There's still, I think, more than 50 held in captivity worldwide, and 22 of those, from the statistics I read, were captured in the wild, and 32 were born in captivity. And there's been nearly 200 taken into captivity over the last few decades, and they've had very much short lifespans with, I think they said there's been several, I think in the 40s, die at SeaWorld in America. So it's just a thing that needs to stop, I think. I think they don't do well in captivity, and they get very sick, and yeah, just don't do well. So I think we all need to be very aware of that and try and influence, if we can, the capture of animals like that for captivity. Look, I'm someone who absolutely loves going to zoos and nature parks and sea parks. Knowing that, though, there is hopefully a conservation aspect to this, and that the creatures that are kept are part of a very careful breeding program, and that they are, really working with scientists and wildlife experts from around the world to make sure that it's the best care possible for these creatures. But the fact that we've known for decades that these orcas do not do well in captivity, and yet they continue to be put on display, and they don't do very well at all. I think that is incredibly cruel, and we need to stop that sort of behaviour. I think it's unacceptable. And of course, there is always the issue that there have been many attacks on humans by captive orcas, and unfortunately often they have been witnessed by huge families and children, and I guess it's because they have just become so frustrated, and probably their mental health has declined. There's also some really interesting research coming out about groups of orcas around the world which have, these are wild orcas, the ones I'm talking about now, where they have actually started working together and either, intimidating, attacking people, or boats. And yeah, so I think that's quite interesting. And they take that all back to there being a senior member of that pod learning a behaviour and then passing it on to their families. That's really interesting. So, yeah, look, I think orcas are magnificent, but they are not a creature that should be kept in captivity. And I think being able to see them in the wild at a respectful distance would be absolutely the magical way to go. So I hope you enjoy those few little facts about orcas. They really are quite almost a mythical creature, and I think the fact that they are a dolphin and they have the name killer whale, I think it's really good to know that they are not a whale. And yeah, I love learning about creatures like this, and I think it's really important that we learn as much as we can, because of course in the past we have not treated them very well. Anyway, so now look at the mess I've made. It just because I'm using so many different pots, I just had resin dripping madly all over the place. So please excuse the mess. I do clean it up. And yeah, sometimes being creative is messy. Despite the mess and the awkwardness of just having one properly functioning hand, I've really enjoyed making these jars. I'm really nervous as I get to the end of filling them up that the tattoos are going to look dreadful because of the errors that were made with me placing them. But you never know, do you? Until you demold, you've just got really no idea. I definitely feel like I've achieved that multiple layers look, and all the different glitters and the lusters and things like that. Sparkly, beautiful. I really am hoping that upon demolding, they look as pretty as the layers looked going in. So as always with my River Art Deep Pour Resin, I set these aside to cure, and I like to give them at least 24 hours, and then I know they're going to reach their full strength. And after a little bit more cleanup, there we go. Waiting for the demold now. So this is actually about 2 days later, and I've got a lovely helper on standby because I doubt that I'm going to be able to demold these on my own, and they are looking very pretty. A little sneak preview of the sides there. And I'm just going to try and roll these back, but as I mentioned, I'm just, really struggling with this hand, so I will pass it off and get that demolded so I can show you. And there we go. I love it. So this is the little one with the whales, and they look beautiful. I just am loving that gold tattoo against that beautiful ocean blue background, and there's just so much going on in that colouring with all the different layers and depth of colours. It's very happy with this one. And while I'm waiting for the other one to be demolded for me, I just can't stop looking at this. It's just so pretty. And here we go. This is the larger one, and this is the one that features the orcas, and they look incredible. It's hard to explain because, oh, whoops. It's hard to explain because in real life they are just almost glowing. The gloss and the shine and the glitter and the sparkle is just so beautiful. So there we go. These are our beautiful 2 jars. Stay tuned to the end because I'll show you what they look like. Thank you so much for joining me for this little crafting adventure. I hope you enjoyed the jars for my lovely friend, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.